So I guess this is timely then that we're doing a survey. I don't know if y'all are going through the whole book. We're not going to take every psalm in the whole book, that's for sure. But we are doing a bit of a survey. You may not have the overviews to the book. Some of you may be haven't been here when we gave out the overview sheets. But if you want an overview sheet, I have some more up here. You can get them after the session. That just helps you. It's kind of an introduction to the book. I do that every time we start a new book, and I put that information together for you. It'll just help you understand the background and everything. What I want to do, I want to start with a statement, and let me get this up on the screen. All right, here's the statement I want to start with. My best counsel to another person is. Complete that. My best counsel to another person is. Your testimony. Okay, that's good. My best counsel to another person is.
Stay in the Word.
Stay in the Word. All right, somebody else. My best counsel is what? Okay, don't look back. Paul said that too, didn't he? All right. What else? My best counsel to someone. Somebody needs counsel. What's the best counsel you could give them? Trust Jesus. Trust Jesus for salvation. Trust Jesus for life. All right? My best counsel to someone is what? What would you add to this list? All right. If to stay in the Word, you got to get in the Word. Read the Bible. I don't understand the Bible. Have you ever had somebody say that to you? Say, but I don't understand the Bible. What do you tell a person who says they don't understand the Bible? You keep on reading? Is that what you say to them? Okay, ask the author for help. Right? What else are you going to tell a person who says, I don't get anything out of it, or I don't... look, they may not be getting anything out of it because they don't know the author. You know? What's that? Okay. Okay, be in church with fellow believers. All right, who will help you and encourage you along. I don't read the Bible. I don't understand it. I heard the story about a professor at college, and he was hostile to Christianity, and he had two guys in the class. Well, what he did actually is he said, he got on the subject of Christianity, and he said, I don't believe in Christianity, and he said, I've read the Bible, and the Bible doesn't make sense to me, and on. And he said, how many of you, and he just berated anybody that's a Christian, and he said, how many of you here are Christian? And only two guys raised their hand. There were others who had indicated they were Christian, but only two. He berated them to the point that they decided not to, they were intimidated. But two guys didn't. These two guys in the class didn't. And he said, are you kidding? He said, you guys still, after that, you guys still believe the Bible and believe God and all this kind of stuff? They said, we do. And he said, well, how do you explain the fact that when I read the Bible, I don't get anything out of it and it doesn't make sense to me? And one of them said perceptively, he said, well, you need to understand something. The Bible is God's love letter written to his people. That's what you get for reading somebody else's mail. So, all right, my best counsel to another person is, all right, pray. Pray faithfully, diligently. All right. Okay.
God does that for you. I think a lot of unsaved people don't understand.
All right. Y- Here's what she before I got saved, I didn't go to church, and part of the reason I didn't go to church is because I thought I needed to get my act together and get cleaned up, before I go to church. And you're right. There are a lot of people that think, well, I need to go to church, but I got to get some stuff straightened out in my life before I, go. And it's really just the opposite. You could really honestly say that's the whole reason you need to go to church, is so God can help you address things and deal with things. I talked with a man years ago in prison, and I shared the gospel with him, and I asked him at the end, I said, is there any reason you couldn't trust Christ? He said, I need to do that. I need to do that. I said, well, I can help you do that. He said, no. He said, before I do that, I got to get some stuff straightened out in my life. And I tried my best to persuade him. I said, no, it's the other way around. The reason you need Jesus is so Jesus cleans us up. We don't clean ourselves up for Jesus. But I couldn't persuade him. He just couldn't get that idea out of his mind that Jesus would accept him where he was. He had to get himself straightened out and cleaned up and all that kind of stuff so that Jesus would accept him. And so, I don't know. I'm not going to write all that down, but that's the idea, and that's good counsel, is that you don't have to clean yourself up to come to Jesus. That's great counsel to another person. You don't have to clean yourself up to come to Jesus.
I always thought that you had to be perfect and that everybody there was perfect.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm not perfect or that sort of, and so I've got to be perfect, and I'll stick out like a sore thumb because I'm not, and they are. And you come to church, if you come to a healthy church, you find out these are all sick people. But remember what we are. We're a hospital for sinners, not a hotel for saints. That's what we are. What counsels? Anybody else?
I don't know if this is the right counsel or not, but I had a project I was doing over in Lake Park, Georgia, and I had to be in a hurry to get through. And it was a guy over at one of the subs that every other word out of his mouth was a GD this or that or whatever. And I listened to it about 2 minutes, and I asked him to come outside with me, and I had to talk to him. I got out there and I said, how would you like me to cuss your daddy? What? I wouldn't. I said, well, every time you take God's name in vain, it's like slapping me in the face. I don't want to hear it no more. I'll take a dictionary and give you some words to use to communicate with your guys.
That's good.
Jesus hung up just like that for me and you. And
Yeah.
that's the way you repay it.
Question is, did he shut up?
He did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good, Doug. I don't know if that goes on our list or not, but it's good. It's good. Anybody else? Anything you want to add to this list? Your best counsel to another person. Okay, find a place to serve. We are made to serve. We all serve in different ways, but we're made to serve. We're made to serve God with our lives. That's good, Jack. Anything else? What's that? That's good counsel when you say to somebody, look, he forgave me, and if he can forgive me, he can forgive you. Surround yourself with godly people. Put yourself in an environment of godly people. Iron sharpens iron. Right? Anything else? That's good. Good list. All right, look at Psalm 37. Let's talk about a few things here in our time that remains. Psalm 37. This is a psalm that is directed to the reader. I told you a couple of weeks ago about a little bit about this psalm. This is an unusual. There are all kinds of categories of psalms. Some are praise psalms. Some are psalms of lament. You know what a psalm of lament is? It's kind of like a regret. By the way, I'm working on a message. I don't know when I'll preach it. Maybe before I go on sabbatical, but I'm working on a message on regret. What do you do with regret? And it really was sparked because a man asked me recently. He said, Pastor, he said, you seem like you've handled regret well. What have you done? How did you handle regret? And it sparked me. He said, I said, well, what prompted that? And he said, I was reading Ecclesiastes where it says, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Actually, it goes on to say, before your mind goes, kind of thing. But while you can, remember, so you don't look back and regret. You don't look back and regret. So I thought, you know what? There are a lot of people that the devil has held hostage with regrets. I should have, I wish I had of, I could have, I didn't, all of that sort of thing. And the devil holds folks hostage. I bet there are a lot of folks that need to hear what God has to say about how do you deal with regret. Because probably everybody has some regrets. My wife asked me over dinner, I don't know, a few months ago, she said, looking back, we've been together 43 years. Really, we dated for 3 years, so we've been in a relationship for 46 years. And in ministry for over 46 years. That's hard to believe that we have. But she said, looking back over it all, she said, would you change anything? And do you have anything that you regret? And I think if I dug, I could find something. But I said, nothing pops to mind. Nothing really pops. Now, there's some stupid things I've done. How many of y'all have done stupid? That's what pops in your mind, stupid things. I told the second service. I didn't tell the first service. But I did something stupid. It wasn't immoral or anything like that, but I did something stupid recently. I mean, it's just stupid. And there were consequences that go with stupid. And sometimes God lets you live with the consequences of stupid. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to tell you because I'm too embarrassed that I was that stupid. And one day the Lord may give me liberty to tell the whole story. But the fact is, I guess if I had a recent one, it's a regret. But it's a regret based on stupid. And by the way, I know this about me, that if you give me enough time, stupid will resurface. Right? But I bet we all have those kinds of regrets, don't we think? We look back. But I told us, I said, I'd really have to think about that. I'm not saying I never blew it or messed up or would have done something different. It's just I feel sometimes like David, when David said, the boundary lines have fallen to me in pleasant places. It's one of my favorites, Psalm 16. The boundary lines have fallen to me in pleasant places. I mean, God's been good to me. And in spite of me, God's been good to me. And so I don't look back and say, man, I have this regret, this regret. I don't look back and say, I regret coming to be your pastor 24 years ago. I don't think. You may regret it. Well, we regret, we could have done it. And if you do, I was talking earlier, you blame it on Gordine Middlebrooks back there. She was on the search committee that brought me in, and so it's her fault. But I don't look back and think. But I have some things, I guess, that I guess I learned how to deal with. I know what I did. I followed some scripture thing on some things, but nothing that I say that's life-altering kinds of regrets that I have. And I'm glad for that. But this man asked, he said, what do you do with regrets? And I thought, I bet there are a lot of people that like to know, what do you do with regrets? Because I will tell you this, the devil will destroy you with regret. He will, so at any rate. So, this is a psalm that is directed to the reader. A lot of times David's psalms are songs, or they're laments, a kind of a regretful thing, or wish I'd have done something different. And some of them are, I've told you, imprecatory, which means that's when he prays, God, go get them. Those kinds of categories. But this is a different kind, and in here, you don't see this much from David. This is more like something from Solomon. We read Proverbs, and Solomon's given us this wisdom, right? It's why I ask, my best counsel to another person is, Solomon is a great counselor, isn't he? I mean, in Proverbs, you go to Proverbs to get counsel on how to live. In Psalms, you get counsel on how to live through a number of different ways, but David gives us more precepts. And this is an unusual psalm because what David is doing here, he's talking to us. He's not praying. He's not singing a song to the Lord. He's just put down some things that you and I need to know, is what he's done here. And I want to show you some of that. Let me get there. 6 precepts he gives us in Psalm 37 to live by. Okay, we certainly will not get through all 6 of these, I don't think, because behind this are 4 promises. But I want to show you 6 precepts. In verse 1, he says, you see what he says in verse 1? Fret not. What does it mean to fret? To worry, to fuss, to be anxious. You know, he says, fret not. But he ties it to something here. Do you see what he ties it to? Fret not yourself because of evildoers. Be not envious of wrongdoers. You ever been envious of somebody that does the wrong thing? I mean, and here's what he's talking about, because we know this if we read through this entire psalm. And David talks about this in other psalms. It is that thing in us that when we see somebody that is wicked, or they defy God, or they're disobedient, and yet they still seem to prosper. You ever had that little thing in you that says it's just not right? You know, have y'all ever had that? Come on now, y'all don't act more spiritual than God. You've had that, haven't you? It just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair. When our daughter was coming up, there would be times when something would happen that wasn't fair, and she would say, but Daddy, she's like her daddy. I have a lot of fairness thing in me. And I've had to battle that all my life through athletics and everything else. Well, you got to do fair. You got to play by the rules, kind of thing. And there are a lot of people out there that don't play by the rules. And yet we feel this burden because we are Christians, and we say, but I'm a Christian. I've got to play by the rules. And so she would say something, Daddy, it's just not fair. And I would have to teach her that age-old lesson. Sweetheart, y'all know what I'm going to say? Life is not fair. How many of you have ever used that line before? Especially with kids, right? Life isn't fair. Wish it were, but it isn't. Life isn't fair. And by the way, God will settle all the accounts eventually. He'll square everything up eventually. But sometimes right now, it's hard to live thinking, yeah, well, God will take care of it all eventually. The fact is, he says, don't fret about the evildoer that prospers. By the way, it ain't going to help you anyway, is it? If you get worried and anxious about somebody out there that's getting away with something they shouldn't get away with, and you let it just ruin you and stress you, it doesn't help you at all. What help is that to you? You know? And so he says, fret not. It's a precept to live by because of evildoers. Notice that he adds something at the end of verse 2. He says, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. What's he saying, class? He's saying their time is coming. Their time is coming. But our problem is sometimes we want to see it. Right? We want to see it. I know, God, you're going to take care of it all, but could I see it? Could I watch it? I'd like to see them crash and burn, you know. And if we're honest, that's how we feel sometimes. But he says this is a precept to live your life on. And by the way, if you don't stress and let that kind of stuff mess with you, it'll take a burden off of you that you can't do anything about anyway. All right? Number 2. Okay, so that's what he says. Number 2 is found in verse 3. You can see it. What is it? Trust in the Lord and do good. This is the second precept to live by. Trust in the Lord and do good. In other words, isn't it interesting it follows that about those who do the wicked stuff? And he says, but as for you, trust in the Lord and do what? Don't do wicked. you do good. In other words, in spite of what the evildoer does, you do good. You just trust in the Lord and you do the right thing. That's what he's saying. And then he says, dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. I like that line. Befriend faithfulness. You know what he's saying there? He's saying make faithfulness your companion. Be a faithful person. Be married to faithfulness. All right? And so you're trusting in the Lord. Dwell in the land where God has put you and be faithful. And be faithful. Trust in the Lord. Fret not. The opposite of worry is trust. Right? If I'm not going to worry, how am I going to do that? I'm going to trust in the Lord. So that I'm not going to be stirred up by worry. That's Matthew 6. That's what Jesus talked about in Matthew 6. All right? So trust in the Lord. Why? Because my confidence is in Him. My confidence isn't even in the system. My confidence isn't even in the system. My confidence is in the Lord. So I'm going to put my trust in the Lord. I was talking with a man that's running for political office, and he came to see me about some council stuff as it relates. And and the deck is stacked against him. I said, the Lord may not want that. He may not want you in office, but He may. And I said, it doesn't matter if the deck is stacked, because the Bible said it is God who lifts up one and casts down another. And I've shared with him what the Bible says when it says, the lot is cast by man, but the outcome is determined by the Lord. And I said, so put your trust in the Lord. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Trust in the Lord. Don't lean on your senses, right? And it's hard to do, especially when you look at the system, or you look at the evildoer. Your senses just say this isn't right, doesn't make sense. But David is saying, instead of worrying, trust in the Lord. This is a precept to live by. You trust in the Lord. And then wherever you are, at that place in life, you trust in the Lord and you remain faithful. None of us are going to get to heaven one day and regret being faithful to God. You won't find anybody in heaven that goes, I wish I had got out there on the edge a little more. There may be some of those people, but they're not going to be in heaven. We're not going to get there. And you are going to get there, and you're going to say, look at all these faithful people. Like Hebrews 11, the Hall of Faith of Fame, these people who demonstrated faithfulness in some very difficult circumstances. So trust in the Lord. Do the right thing, even if no one else is doing the right thing. You do the right thing. Dwell in the land, that is the place where God has put you, and befriend faithfulness. Where you are is where God has put you. There can be a lot of reasons for that we don't have time to get into. But learn to say, I trust Him where I am, and He can move me where He wants. Figuratively speaking, literally speaking. It goes along with something that I share with you in my column just about every week when I close by saying, remember, God's always trying to take you someplace new. Now, I guess sometimes that's physical, but I mean that in a spiritual sense. God's always trying to do something new. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to preach a message called The Marks of a Mature Church. And really, I'm talking about the marks of personal maturity in our own life, because we are the church. And so, at any rate, we have confidence in the Lord, and so we trust Him. Let me do one more real quick. We got two minutes here. So, Precept number 3 is, can y'all see it? It's in verse 4. Delight. Delight yourself in the Lord. Now, that's such a wonderful truth, but it's harder to make application. Delight yourself in the Lord means contentment. I can be content in the Lord. I can find joy in my relationship with the Lord. Sometimes that's hard. You know why it's hard? Because we've already determined that our joy comes from 15 other things. And if those 15 other things aren't happening in our life, it robs us of our joy. But David is saying here, delight yourself in the Lord, your pursuit of the Lord, your knowledge of the Lord, your growing knowledge of the Lord. Find your delight in Him. It's why Paul could be in a prison cell and sing praise songs. It's why he could tell us, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Listen, I think the secret to this is living in the moment with Jesus. I can't rejoice in the Lord today. Right? But I can rejoice right now in the Lord. I can rejoice when I get up in the morning. I made it through another night. Thank you, Jesus. I can rejoice. I can delight in the Lord, what He's done in my life. Think about that. What has He done in your life? I can rejoice. I can delight myself in the fact that He loved me enough to die for me. Think about the magnitude of that. I can delight myself in the fact that I belong to Him, and even when it doesn't feel like it, He still has my best interest in mind. So I can take my delight in Him. And so the joy of the Lord becomes my strength. See how that all works together? So it's time for us to go, but I'll give you the other 3 precepts in this chapter that I've pulled out when we come back. Let's say I won't be here next Wednesday, so 2 Wednesdays out. And then also in this, I'm going to show you 4 promises He gives us. So there are precepts and promises that He gives us in this, and it's all about how to live. I think it's very practical. So, any questions or comments about anything we've just discussed? Oh, because those are verses, not numbers. I have to tell you something, Margaret. No, those are verses, verse 7. So, see, verse 1, verse 3, verse 4. Our pastor's illiterate. But Margaret, let me tell you something funny. So when I'm working on this, and I'm studying and working on this, and I put these down, I start looking at it, and I said, what is going on here? What am I doing? I forgot that I was marking the precept by verse instead of numbers, the numerical number, because there are 6 of them there, and I did the same thing. So I had to it took me a second to realize, what have I done? And I start recounting things, thinking, I'm not counting right. What have I missed here? I can't find number 6. And so, okay. And there's several other people coming clean that thought, I did too, and I did it. So, at any rate, yeah. Well, I probably should have just gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I didn't, and I confused myself with it, but I figured it out. And so maybe I should have told you that before. These are not sequential numbers. These are verses where these precepts are found. All right? Any other questions? That was a heavy one. Any other questions? But aren't you glad, Margaret? Aren't you glad you're not the only one that did that? Aren't you? Yeah. Yeah. You'd have gone home with regrets if you had. But all right. Anybody else have anything else?
I was just gonna say the rest of verse 4, when it says he'll give you the delights or the desires of your heart.
Yep.
To me, when he does that and starts changing you, then the contentment and joy comes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And of course, again, I love that I love that whole verse. I've quoted it many times through the years, but that last statement is, some of these have a precept, and then they have an attachment to the precept. So the precept is delight yourself in the Lord, and if you do, He will give you the desires of your heart. And there are people, and I'll be done with this, there are people who misunderstand and say, well, I've tried to delight in the Lord, and He's not giving me the desire of my heart, what I want and everything, which is usually points out something, and that is this is all self-focused. It's not God-focused, which is what he's talking about doing. But what happens is when you delight yourself in the Lord, guess what happens? The desires of your life change. Yeah, the desires change. And so you don't even have to question your motive, because when you delight yourself in the Lord, it's all about the Lord. It's not about me. But if you flip it, it becomes about me and not about the Lord. And Lord, what have you done for me lately? Kind of thing. You see the difference? So yeah, that's a great concept. He changes us, and suddenly our desires align with His desires, and that brings great fulfillment and peace, and all of the fruits of the Spirit manifest. All that. Okay. Anything else? That's good. Anybody here tonight, and you're not sure if you died, you'd go to heaven? You'd like to take care of that? Okay, you're here and you have taken care of that, but you need church to belong to, and you'd like to join Ridgecrest. Right?